For Chapter 5, Exercise 1, I'm going to go ahead and create this object in such a way that I don't necessarily have to create any new planes to get this object to work. So what I've been doing in the tutorial videos is I've been going straight to the extrude command without actually first creating the sketch. And when you're dealing with simple type sketches, that's not necessarily a bad thing. So in this instance, we have some simple sketches, so I don't necessarily need to do the sketch first. So I can just go ahead to extrude, click placement, and I am going to do this from my front plane. So now I will go ahead and draw just my first line of the model, which is going to be 38 long, just to kind of give myself a good reference for the scale of this particular object. So now I can go ahead and draw the rest of the shape in. I know this is going to come up, and I'm not going to worry about the rounded piece because that is just going to be a fillet that we can apply later on. So I'll go ahead and draw in the shape, and then I can put in my dimensions accordingly. So this dimension right here needs to be 55. This across the top is going to be 22. The dimension for this leg right here is going to be 19. So this is the initial shape that I'm working with. I have no open ends, I have a closed profile, so I'm ready to go for the extrusion. So I'm going to say OK, but I'm going to do this one a little bit differently. In Chapter 5, we do a lot of working with creating datum planes, creating datum axes, and a lot of reference features. But if you plan accordingly, you can a lot of times just use your default planes to create most of the information that you need. And that's something that I'm going to do in this one more so than anything else, rather than having to create additional planes. So I do want my extrusion to be 68. But now, if this goes just one way, then I'm going to have a really hard time creating that middle feature that comes in the other way. So over here, I am going to use this option, which extrudes both sides. This is still going to be the total, but this is going to split it so that I still have that axis directly in the middle of my part. And that's going to save me a lot of time here in a few minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and select OK. I'll go to my fillet command and change my radius to 22 and select this edge so that I can get that rounded portion. And now I can create that bottom piece, and we'll put this piece in here last, but the next thing I want to do is get that bottom piece in because it has the angle on the front of it. So I'm going to go to extrude, and I want to come in here and define it on that same plane that I used to create it initially, and we will project this in here. But then, similar to what we've done before, I only really want it for its reference geometry, so I can delete this segment, but I now have endpoints that I can snap to. So now I'm going to draw my line, and let me go to sketch view orientation, and I'll draw my line out here. It angles down and it comes all the way back. I'm going to go ahead and restart that so that I can get it lined up and take advantage of some of the automatic constraints that the software uses. So I know the height for this has to be 12, so I can put in my 12 here. And this in here is going to be a 64-degree angle. So I'm going to go back to my dimension tool, and I'm going to click here to here, and we will put in 64 for this. And the total length is 95. So once I have those dimensions placed, I have no more weak dimensions, it's shaded, no open ends, and it's a closed loop. So I can go ahead and say OK so that I can extrude this piece. Now this piece is 24, but now if you notice again here it's coming out in one direction. Let me go ahead and change this to 24 right now. But then I want to use that same option that I used the first time, and that is to do a symmetrical extrusion around the plane. That way I don't, again, have to recreate any information to do this. So now I can go ahead and hit the checkbox for that extrusion. the last step, or the last feature that I need to draw, I can draw using this face right here. And again, I'm going to use the hole command to create the hole, so I'll do that in a second as well. So I go to extrude, and I select this is my plane that I want to use. And I'm going to go to project, and project that line. I'm then going to create a circle on the midpoint of this line, and we'll give that a diameter of 32. Use my delete segment tool, and now I can delete this portion, and this portion. And by deleting those portions, it keeps my midpoint where it's supposed to be, and I get my 32 where it's supposed to be. So now I can just go ahead and say OK. Now for this extrusion, we're going to be running into this curved surface. So what I want to do over here is I want to go to extrude up to next surface, and then flip the direction. Now what that's going to do is that's going to extrude right in, and it's going to stop the extrusion wherever it contacts the next surface. So with that being there, all I have to do is say OK, and I get my extrusion going to that next surface. Now for the hole, I do want to create an axis, so I'm going to select axis, click here and say OK. Now I have an axis that I can work with, and I'm going to go to the hole command and left click this face, hit Control, select the center. I want this hole to go through all, and I want it to have a diameter of 12. And actually it doesn't go through all, it has a depth of 16. So let me go ahead and put in a depth of 16 there. So it doesn't stick out through this piece, it just goes 16 deep into here. So at this point I can go ahead and click the checkbox for this one, and here is exercise 1 in chapter 5.